Hey folks, we're in Brooklyn today, Brooklyn, New York. We're coming here to investigate a story between two American forts, Fort Hamilton and Fort Lafayette. They were both in Brooklyn, New York. One of them is gone, Fort Lafayette. The second one is still here, Fort Hamilton. So we're here, we want to investigate what happened. Today, Fort Hamilton is still standing. It's the last standing Army garrison in the city of New York. And I'm hoping the U.S. Army there can give us some answers about what happened to Fort Lafayette and really how they connected these two names, Hamilton and Lafayette, in the defense of the harbor of New York. These two men's names, they fought together at Yorktown in 1781, and they were united for a long time here in Brooklyn, New York, in the defense of the harbor of New York City. So I just want to find out what happened, and I'm sure we'll get some answers. So let's go hit the trail and let's go follow the Frenchmen. So behind me, you can see the two towers of the Verrazano Bridge, and the one that's closest to the Brooklyn shore is where Fort Lafayette used to stand. It was called Fort Lafayette Island. And so in 1960, after several years of conversations and discussions, finally the fort was torn down to build what's now the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And so there's not much left of Fort Lafayette, obviously. And we're gonna try to bring that story more to life, and we wanna explore how the Army today tries to, I guess, fulfill their historic mission of defense and telling that story to the public. So just imagine that after more than 40 years, and Americans hadn't heard the word Lafayette for 40 years and more, except if you're a founding father and you corresponded with him for these years regularly. But for most Americans, you don't know what happened to the man. You have no idea. And so he pops back 40 years later in 1824. And the first time he arrives here is August 15th, 1824. And it's here. It's in New York City. And Fort Lafayette fired a 13-gun salute as one of the first buildings to welcome him. And it's not 24-gun salute, it's 13, which tells you that it's a reference to the Revolutionary War. Lafayette is received as a hero of the American Revolution, and the gun salute out of Fort Lafayette to welcome him back to the US reflects just that. So guys, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but we're gonna do it. I have with me this key of the Bastille that I carry with me everywhere here at the Narrows, and I'm hoping it's gonna open a few doors, and we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna try to open all of these doors, at least one of them. So let's see where it leads us, okay? Let's go figure it out.
Julien.
Yeah, what's up?
I have a special treat for you.
I'm excited. I have those gloves on. I don't know what's for, but I'm sure it's going to be great.
So my colleagues up at the West Point Museum said they have a unique artifact that we could borrow for our event tomorrow.
Okay.
And today I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
And the artifact that you're going to see is connected to General Lafayette.
No kidding.
The story goes on this pin. When he ran into his old aide-de-camp, Richard Anderson, he gave him this pin. The Society of Cincinnati pin. So good afternoon and welcome to today's dedication ceremony. My name is Justin Batt and I'm the curator here at the Harbor Defense Museum on Fort Hamilton. Ages ago, monumental forces of weather and geology formed the Narrows, the waterway in front of you. And in time, these waters would become home to the city of New York. And as the city grew and its harbor grew hand in hand, so did the need to defend them. Dutch, British, and Continental Army forces all fought to make the city their own. Ultimately, General George Washington and his army would prevail, with the support of our French ally and reclaimed the city in 1783. Decades later, the United States Army would man a network of fortifications at the Narrows, making them the city's first line of defense. On Staten Island stood Forts Richmond and Tompkins, and on the Brooklyn side stood Forts Lafayette and Hamilton. That meant enemy ships would have to chance navigating between these fortifications to threaten our city. Fort Lafayette was originally constructed as Fort Diamond, with the work completed in 1822. And on March 26, 1823, by the direction of President James Monroe, the fort was renamed after General Lafayette. However, after an 1868 fire gutted out Fort Lafayette, Army engineers acknowledged it wasn't worthy of restoration. And today, we celebrate the expansion of Fort Hamilton's historic walking trail with the first interpretive panel dedicated to Fort Lafayette on Fort Hamilton, and a historic marker to commemorate American Revolutionary War hero General Lafayette and his visit to the Narrows during his 1824-1825 farewell tour of the United States.
By sponsoring this marker at Fort Hamilton, it is our hope to perpetuate the memory of General Lafayette and his role in the American Revolution, and to help bring the history of his 1824-1825 farewell tour back into our collective memory, as it is not regularly included in U.S. History High School curriculum. The New York Daughters are also honored to help preserve and share the history of Fort Lafayette through this marker and the interpretive panels.
When I was in Afghanistan, in Kapisa province, right over the hill from where I worked, was the French Task Force Lafayette. And we continue to recognize today in our service together as soldiers and defenders of freedom, democracy, how important our relationship is. And it's a privilege to continue that recognition by establishing a marker here that will long endure, I hope, and highlight the importance of the Marquis de Lafayette and all his other titles that he had, and his service not only to France, but to the United States, in ensuring our liberty and our success and victory during our Revolutionary War.
Lafayette was a critical, individual in the liberty and the victory that we achieved in the Revolutionary War for the United States. And so to actually be the first military installation to have that opportunity, I have to say thank you. Fort Hamilton is the fourth oldest Army post in the United States, and it's a historic post. We have a historic fort that overlooks the Verrazano Narrows here behind us. What was formerly Fort Lafayette right out there. And to commemorate Lafayette's presence here when he came back through to visit the United States, almost like a victory tour, right?
It is. It's totally a victory tour, yeah.
And he deserved every single honor he received when he came back through. We're grateful here today on Fort Hamilton to really expand all this significant history we have and recognize the cultural impacts and the historical landmarks that Lafayette had here on Fort Hamilton in the area.
On September 8th, 1824, Lafayette died at Fort Lafayette. He had a dinner there. And he also visited the site of what's now Fort Hamilton. Now, this is the message. These are two American forts. And I, Lafayette, as a hero of the American Revolution, I'm here to tell you that those forts are in the national interest. They're here to protect you all. They're national forts. They're here to protect America. And I, Lafayette, as a hero of the revolution, I'm going to show you that by going to these two places, I'm going to make that connection. And so I think it's an important point to make, because as he goes around the country, it's about national unity, and these forts are defensive mechanisms. They're here to protect Americans. And Lafayette has actually that mission of securing the country, bringing more unity. And I think he does just that when he visits the Narrows, by getting to Fort Lafayette, dining there, and also visiting the site of what's now Fort Hamilton at the Narrows. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank you guys for joining us and following the Frenchmen here at Fort Hamilton. Hopefully you learned a lot about the creation of these two forts, the relationship between these two men, and how the Army maintained it at the Narrows here in New York City. So it's really important here. I think it's a great episode. It's a great legacy of Lafayette, that of the military. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will follow the trail, follow the Frenchmen, hit the road, and we will see you soon. Thank you.